Two Voices Media Group, in the know.
Welcome. Good evening. I'm Miss Jill, and this is In the Know. Tonight, we have a special guest with us from an organization that not only helps in our local community, but is also a national organization. To give you an idea, there are approximately 100 of these organizations nationally in 36 states, and this particular organization has actually served more than 2.6 million people. So this is a movement that has been serving this community alone for over 100 years, I believe 104 years to be exact. So what am I talking about? I'm talking about the Fort Wayne Urban League. And so with that being said, we would like to introduce our guest, President and CEO of the Fort Wayne Urban League, Aisha Arrington. Welcome.
Thank you.
How are you?
Hey,
Thank
welcome.
you.
Clarence
Thank you.
V, welcome. How's everybody?
Thank you.
Good, we're doing
Good, very good. So did I have those numbers correct?
Yes, 104 years we've been here in the Fort Wayne community.
Okay, I didn't know that. I don't think a lot of people know that. And we're going to get into a little bit of the history. But first, if we can just start out with you giving us a brief introduction, tell us a little bit about you.
Sure. Well, I am a Fort Wayne native, so born and raised here in Fort Wayne, born at St. Joe Hospital.
Okay.
Fort Wayne tends to be a little bit tribal as far as people try to figure out by your last name.
Right.
I'm a little different because I did grow up in the foster care system
Okay.
and tended to hop around. So it wasn't until I got married about 9 years ago and got the Arrington last name that people started connecting me to the community.
Okay.
But I did graduate from IPFW when it was called IPFW with my bachelor's degree and earned my master's degree from Indiana Tech and have worked non-for-profit most of my life here.
Okay, well, great. And we're gonna really dig into that, not just the organization, but a little bit about what it takes to assume this position, because I know you're a little over 2 years in, correct?
2 years, July 5th.
Okay.
Hallelujah.
Oh, wow.
I
Okay.
made it.
You did. You did.
Yes, new 2 years.
You did. So first, just a little history. I know I didn't know this, and maybe you didn't know this, but this all started in 1920.
Yes.
Correct? With a small group of leaders that came together because they saw a need, because their peers, their friends, their associates were trying to basically escape the Jim Crow. So everyone got together. They knew that everyone, people are going to be looking for better opportunities. They were going to need, education, things for their children, housing. So basically, that's pretty much how the organization started, correct?
Well, yes, and all the urban leagues across the country. I mean, we were really hand in glove with the NAACP, the Poor People's Campaign, even with Reverend Dr. Martin Luther King's movement with the Southern Christian Leadership Team. So it really was a group of organizations all trying to work together to make sure that we could close some of the disparity gaps that exist in the Black community.
Right. And so October 1st, 1949, that's when Fort Wayne Urban League actually emerged.
Yes.
Okay. Clarence, did you have something?
Well, I actually just have a question, and it's a more relevant question. We understand the purpose of the organization and when it was originated. But, a lot of times we ask about these organizations today. Can you give us the relevance and the need for the Urban League today, not only in Fort Wayne, but throughout the country?
Yeah.
I really appreciate that question. Yes. The National Urban League releases a State of Black America's report every year, and they've been doing that for the past 20 years. The 2023 State of Black America's report indicated that the social equality index has increased or improved by 2.7% for Black people. If we continue at that rate, it will take 180 years for Black people to be equal to white people in this country. And so when you talk about today's relevance, I don't know how else to explain it by just sharing that data.
Right, right. And that makes sense, because it is a help up and it's a moving forward, agency. But, a lot of time, a lot of these agencies get, criticized, because they don't see the relevance. But we want to, accentuate the relevance to make sure everybody knows what the relevance is for today for these organizations.
Absolutely. I mean, and if you look at that equality index increasing only by 2.7% in 20 years, part of that equality index is looking at, things like police brutality. We know that as a Black person here in America, you are twice as likely to be shot and killed by the police than any other race.
Yes.
True.
And so it's important that we keep those conversations going because that's exactly why the movement is still so relevant today.
And you just had a campaign. Tell us about that campaign you had recently.
We just kicked off our second annual banned book campaign. We passed out 200 banned books at the Magnificent Fest at McMillan for the Juneteenth celebration, and we will continue passing out books as long as we have funding. But the banned book campaign is something that all the urban leagues across the country support. It supports the Freedom to Learn campaign because, as we know, there are books across the country that are being banned. Books like The Bluest Eye, I Know Why the Caged Bird Sings.
Yes.
You can't ban Toni Morrison or Dr. Maya Angelou. You just can't. Even Ruby Bridges' books, Ruby Bridges Goes to School, is on the banned book list. And Ruby Bridges is still alive, advocating and sharing her story. And she asked, why is my book on the banned book list? And she was told it would make white children feel bad about themselves.
But Tom Sawyer and Huckleberry Finn is still in the libraries, right? All right, I'm just going to move on. I'm going to let somebody ask some other question.
Yeah.
Wow. The number, when you broke it down with the study and the number, I think that was very powerful because that's real. You can't get around the 2.7. I mean, that's what it is. So I really like the way that you used that.
Jill, before you move on, I wanted to know, so as a community, what can we do to change, one, those numbers, but even to assist and help you with the book ban moving forward?
Well, obviously, we need dollars, to buy those books. And we're passing out brand new copies of those banned books. And so we're raising funds for it. I will say, give us money, obviously, so we can buy more books. Like the Fort Wayne Urban League's Facebook page, something that people may not know is we lost our Facebook page last year because of the banned book campaign. We got so many complaints made to Meta that they shut our Facebook page down. And so we lost over 2,000 followers for the Fort Wayne Urban League. And now we're starting that page all over again. And it's painful to get those numbers back up. So if people could go out and like Fort Wayne Urban League, get their family and friends to like Fort Wayne Urban League, that really helps us. And then visit our website and consider a donation so that we can put books in the hands of people to make sure that our history is not being erased.
Okay. And so regarding the ban, so what about that 2.7? How can we move that and get that where we think it should be?
As an urban league, that's a big task, and what we know is that one organization, one person isn't going to be able to do it. And what we have to do as a people is to be supportive of one another. I think one thing that we really need to focus on in our community is partnerships and looking at ways that we can partner with one another. We talked about maybe some redlining and some of the disparities, but one thing that I know for sure is there's redlining in dollars too. So when you have Black organizations here on the Southeast side, we are all scrambling for the same dollar, and they're only going to give so much money to Black organizations, especially Black organizations that are Black ran and Black serving. And so what I see is a real opportunity for us to lean on one another and to partner because there is power in partnership. I tell you, the bus boycott would not have survived had people not worked together and partnered together. I ask myself sometimes, would a boycott work today? Would we as a people be able to make that successful? I don't know. But it was a real commitment of a community standing up together and saying no more.
That's right.
And we're going to stand as one, and we're going to fight, against this injustice. And what happened? We shut a bus system down.
Yes.
Yeah.
And you know what
Yes.
that caused? Loss of money.
That's right.
And what happened when they lost that money?
They woke up.
Thank you.
Yes.
Made some changes.
We were able to sit where we wanted.
That's right.
And so there's power in joining together.
Oh yeah.
I think that, again, powerful, when you posed the question and you said even yourself, your answer is, I don't know. Would that happen today? Clarence, I'm going to put you on the spot. What would your answer to that question be?
What a
Could we pull that off today with our community standing up?
I would say no, because we're not in a mindset of being separated to that point. We are consumers, so I'm gonna spend my money. At the time when that happened, we had people supplying our needs in our community. We don't have a grocery store that we own in this community. We don't have anything that we own in this community. So if we boycott, where are we going to go?
Yeah.
What are we going to have? See, they had the foundations where they could still go restaurants and eat. They could still go to grocery stores. So how do we change that mindset is what we should be asking.
Wow.
Absolutely. Well, and I just want to clear this up since I happen to own my own business. I do want to say we do own some things,
Correct.
but we don't own enough.
There
Enough
we go.
things. There's not enough of you.
Exactly.
There's not enough of you.
Right. But I do understand what you're saying. But I think too the mentality, and Clarence, I think that's kind of where you were going to. The mentality of the people today would be the challenge to I think. So
Wow. Yeah, that was a very eye-opening thing that you said.
And as you say that, Miss Aisha, what do you see? What kind of people do you see coming into the Urban League in the community mindset overall? How do you see the people that you serve, or what is the demographics of the people you serve?
Well, the Fort Wayne Urban League serves a wide range of people. We've had programming where we're serving new entrepreneurs that are trying to develop and create their own business. And we offered those classes right out of the Urban League building. In the same day, though, you may have a single mom coming in the Urban League that her electricity's cut off and there's no food in the refrigerator. And she's, desperate for some immediate help just to make it through the night. And so, there is a little bit of a spectrum there. I will say where the Fort Wayne Urban League sits, we sit in the poorest zip code in the county at 46803. And so there is a lot of need there. There is some despair there. I don't think we understand as a society how taxing it is to be poor. Yeah. Poverty is a job. Right. And unless you have gone through poverty, you just can't embrace what someone in poverty actually goes through. You almost have to be a social worker yourself, an administrative assistant, because the paperwork and the all the responsibility that you take on to receive the help that you need can be really overwhelming. And so, as an Urban League, we see all of that. I personally, coming from a poverty background, growing up in the foster care system, being a high school dropout and having my first baby at 18, I have a different perspective than someone who maybe didn't have those experiences.
Yes, 100%.
That's a great story to tell. You're going to have to
I
come
was
tell
gonna
that story
say,
one day.
Awesome woman for the job.
Yeah, you're going to have to come tell that story one day, though.
Yes.
Before we talk a little bit about you, there are some things coming up that I know we want to talk about. One of those things is behind us, the Sneaker Ball, and that is on September 7th at 6 p.m. Let's talk a little bit about the Sneaker Ball. I know you brought some things with you that you want to show us.
Well, we've got just a cute little keychain here, and I'll pass that down. Anyone that buys a VIP ticket to the Sneaker Ball will receive that keychain at their chair.
Okay.
But I just think it's the cutest little wrench.
It is cute. It is super cute.
So just a little encouragement. Sneaker Ball is coming up. So one thing that we did do as an Urban League is we worked with 4 local artists, Black artists here in the community that painted sneakers for us. And these sneakers are going to go on tour around the city starting July 15th. So they're going to be at Sweetwater, the Museum of Art, the Embassy, Impact Center just said they'll have them there. And we're looking looking for one more location. These sneakers here, and I'll just pass this one down just so you guys can see. I think it's so cool. This artist, her name, she goes by Roslyn Janae on Facebook. Clydia Early recommended her to us, and I think this young lady just did an awesome job painting these sneakers.
Yes,
and so those are going to start going on tour here soon around the city. But really, the Sneaker Ball is the fundraiser for the Fort Wayne Urban League. So traditionally, we always had a gala every year. Some of us went to those galas dressed up, and it was all fundraising to support the mission and the movement of the local Urban League. We're bringing that back, but with a twist, and having a Sneaker Ball. But it is our signature fundraising event.
Okay.
Oh, so this is in place of the gala, because I remember the gala.
Yes.
Many years gala. I supported and went to many of these galas, but I'm trying to figure out what size are these.
Those are
cool. How could a person?
Can't do nothing with it.
How do we get tickets? How does a person, if they're interested in attending?
It is easy peasy.
Okay.
You go to our website, www.fwul.org, and as soon as you click on that website, you're going to see the Sneaker Ball tickets right there. We put them at the top of the page, and you can purchase your ticket there. It's $75 for general admission, and then $100 for a VIP ticket.
And that was FWUL.org. And
Yes.
they'll just pop right up. And not only is it a super fun time, but you are supporting an amazing organization. So go. Yeah.
I was just gonna say, so before you leave that, is this the original Sneaker Ball? Just so everybody's clear, because I know we've had this in the city before, but is this the second time?
Well, we're going to claim the original Sneaker Ball. That's a wonderful name.
That's what I want to know, because I know that there was a Sneaker Ball before. So
I haven't heard of it.
Did you have it?
I haven't heard of it.
So have you had it just one time?
This is our first annual Sneaker Ball.
Gotcha.
And this
Okay,
Sneaker
awesome.
Ball replaces the old gala. We're calling it an old gala period.
Right.
And
Okay.
we're moving forward
Yes.
with the Sneaker Ball every year. And so
awesome.
Sneaker Balls for the Urban League movement is very popular. The National Urban League has a Sneaker Ball. Our president and CEO, Mark Morial, walks to the stage with Big Papa playing in the background and his sneakers on. And so we thought, why not, have a Sneaker Ball here in Fort Wayne?
Yeah.
And there have been some smaller Sneaker Balls in the community, but yes, we'll claim the original
There we
Sneaker
go.
Ball
You said it
for
here.
the community.
Said it here.
Got it.
Let's talk about STEAM Camp. I know you're excited to talk about that. Tell us a little bit about what STEAM Camp is.
This year, we had a 2-week STEAM camp that kicked off Monday. We were really excited as an Urban League to have some great partners. One with Allen County Soil Preservation that's helping the kids plant and grow a sunflower garden right in front of the Urban League building. And then we also partnered with Civic Theater. The kids are learning how to write and act out their own skit based off of one of our race cards. Some of the audience may remember the race card project that we partnered with in February. One of the race cards was, "Why does my hoodie scare you?"
Yes.
And so the kids are writing a skit and acting out a skit based on that race card. And then we were just gracious to get local artist Lindy Bazil to do art with our students. And so between the Sunflower Garden and art and Civic Theater, we layered in the book The Hate You Give by Angie Thomas. That book is on the banned book list. And so we are,
Crazy.
that is
That's
on the
one of
banned
best-
book list.
Yeah. That's one of the best movies I've ever seen.
That is on the banned book list. So all of our students receive a free copy of that book, and we're reading that together through camp. So
No wonder you're super excited about that
Before
program.
you move on, Jill, we know what STEM is. Tell us what STEAM is. What
Well,
does that
STEAM,
acronym-
you add the arts, and that's what makes STEM so fun. So because we've got that art component to it, now we get to work with Lindy and have her come in and work with our kids hands on. So it's really, really fun. I do want to say that we've got T-shirts, and I'll leave 2 large here today, but we were able to get these made. This is a local business, Kanitha Miles, has a business. You can find her on Facebook. But the quote says, "Your voices matter, your dreams matter, your lives matter. Be the rose that grow in the concrete." Angie Thomas, The Hate You Give. And of course, that The Hate You Give is based off of Tupac's Thug, and The Hate You Give. And so that's why we've got his picture in the back. But the kids are reading it, reading a little bit about Tupac too, what maybe inspired him to come up with that thug life, to tell us what it really means. But it's really great conversation, because what we're really teaching our kids is all about justice and community. And it's been fun so far.
It sounds fun. It sounds fun. The Mothers for the Movement, Every Child Home Alive. Let's talk about that for a second.
Yeah, that we're having our first meeting Friday. I've got a group of local mothers who are joining me in this new initiative for the Fort Wayne Urban League. It's no secret that our community is still really grieving by the loss of a young man that was killed by a police officer here in the community. As a leader and as a part of the Urban League, it's very important that the message that we send, that we want to be part of the solution.
Yes.
And so our answer to this is Mothers for the Movement, Every Child Home Alive. And we have two initiatives. One, we want to create language and training so that we can give our youth proper protocols when interacting with the police, specifically when they're pulled over, but also interaction. And then number two, providing opportunities for our police officers to be working with our youth face-to-face in the community that they serve. And so both of those go together. I mean, it's back to community policing. If you know the kids that you've taken an oath to serve, and having those relationships, that will keep everyone safer. And then if we can teach our youth about those proper protocols, that will help. The book, The Hate You Give, and the movie really talks about that. If you've watched the movie, then most of us have seen that scene when the dad sits his kids down young and saying hands on the dashboard. And he really gives it to the children about how you act when you're pulled over by the police, that it will happen. I did want to add in there, though, just the interaction, because you've got cases across the country like Tamir Rice. He was playing with a play gun in the park. He was not pulled over, but he was shot and killed. And so it's knowing those protocols with interacting, but also when we're pulled over.
Two things you mentioned that I want to connect with your conversation right now. The one is, you mentioned earlier that as a black person, as a black male especially, I am 2 times more likely to be killed by the police than any other race. Secondly, the hoodie thing. You said, why does my hoodie scare you? We understand that we in our community have to move different, but why is the necessity that we have to move different? Why is it seen that we are more dangerous than any other race? I understand we have some culpability in that, but you can pull any other race over. There was another race that, maybe 3 weeks before was shooting at the police, but he came out alive.
Right.
This incident, be it a gun or not, it was legally a legal gun. He had the legal right. So why with a black man with the legal right that's not using a gun die, but a man that's shooting at the police? So my question in the commentary is, with the Urban League, you want to work with the police. Can you and you say you want to teach them, but what do you teach them that tells them that we're not as dangerous as they think?
Wow, and that's a really big question. And I think for me, there's a lot of layers to that. I want to be transparent to say that I grew up part of my teenage years on East Lewis Street in the 90s. I was just talking to my cousin about this the other day and talking about our walks to McCulloch Center. But it was called McCulloch then, sorry.
It's a Janet Center now.
And I just wrote an op-ed that printed in the newspaper just a couple weeks ago. And I talked about those experiences, because what those experiences looked like were not positive interactions with police officers. It was standing in front of 3 sisters, and we all got pickles and candy.
Really
and the police pulls up and says, hands up.
Right.
And we're not doing anything. We're just hanging out the store. I got a pickle. Somebody else got some. Now later later, somebody got some Chico sticks. We're just sitting there eating candy. And so when the police swoop up on you and say, hands up, I remember that. You know, I had a boyfriend on East Lewis Street that was kicked down to the ground by the police. You know, I remember him and his hands behind his back and him looking up at me scared and confused. There was a helplessness that I felt. He didn't do anything wrong, but I couldn't do anything to help him. And so what I want to share with our youth is I want to share those experiences. I want adults like myself to share those experiences, but really get home that we want you home alive.
Yes.
What is happening is not fair. It's not right, but ultimately we want you back home alive. And what does back home alive looks like? That is really fighting later. We don't fight the cop when we're right in front of him. We don't give mouth when we're right in front of him. We wait until after the event because the goal is to get you home alive. And so those are really the conversations that we want to have. When you're talking about the history, we have to understand as Black people that that is really what society did to us as a people after slavery, is they had to dehumanize us. They had to make it right and okay for us to be kept in slavery. And how did they do that? They made cartoons of Black men raping white women behind the woods. And I mean, that history is 100 years old. I don't know if we're going to get through it. National Urban League says it's 180 years before we get to that equality index. So we've got some work to do. But the goal of the initiative is sharing stories, sharing the proper protocols so we get you home alive. And then we fight after the effect that episode.
Aisha, you have a ton on your plate with this, and obviously, I mean, you see a lot, you hear a lot, you feel a lot, and like you said, some of the things you've also experienced along the way. So I want to ask you, how are you holding up with the task personally?
It's not a job that you take that you ever outwork. And I'm a hard worker. I've had to be to get to where I am in life now, considering where I started. And so you have to know that, you know, and we look at the data, a lot of Urban League leaders stay 5 years and then they burn themselves out. And so I understand that piece of it. But I do think that all of us have to have something that in the morning helps us roll out of bed and get the day started. And this job puts fire under your butt to roll on out the bed and get the day started. I also think that because of my personal life story, I finally feel that I'm doing some good to fight back for some of the injustices that I experienced in my own life. And if I can help one life, then I will have done something. And so those are the things that really keep me going. As an Urban League, I'm honored to serve as president and CEO for this organization. The reason why I have that title is Vernon Jordan, who used to be the National Urban League president. He was the one that visited Fort Wayne in 1980 and had an assassination attempt on his life. He said, you're not executive directors anymore. You're president and CEO. And the reason why he gave us that title was so that I could sit at the table with other presidents and CEOs to make sure I had the relationships necessary to move the movement forward. And I remember that, you know, in my day-to-day work, and that's important. I also join history. And so when we talk about Mothers for the Movement, Every Child Home Alive, there's history there. Mamie Till was the first mother of the movement, if there was ever such a thing, because she had the courage to demand an open casket for Emmett. And because she did that, she galvanized the civil rights movement, because it was less than a year later that Rosa Parks sat down and said, I am not moving from this seat. And so, yes, it's hard. But when I look at a Mamie Till, I know that it's possible, and it's possible for me to do my good. And so that's why I'm here, to do my good for as long as I can.
Amen. Amen. And, you know, you brought up something, so I have to ask, what do you do for Aisha? What do you do to unwind? And is your immediate support group, tell us a little, because that's important. You know, we speak to people and we tell them how important that is. But then when we are in these demanding positions, sometimes we don't take that advice. So what do you do to kind of unwind or to stay grounded?
I'm learning. You know, I'm learning. I will say I don't want to make everything about race, but when you are a Black woman in leadership, there's not a whole lot of wiggle room.
Yes.
I really feel like most days I have to be Mother Teresa under oath, and in order to do the job, that they're waiting for me to make one mistake, and that's really heavy to carry. But I am a mother, you know, and so I take that seriously. I think the most thing that really is challenging is that my kids are so far apart. So I told you guys I was 18, dropped out of high school, had my first baby. That daughter was raised with hard parenting. I have a 15-year-old now at Snyder High School, and my oldest will say, "Oh, that's soft parenting." And
I get that. I get that.
She's like, you know, because I try to have the conversations, you know, now today you'll be cleaning your room, you know. My oldest like, where's this mama coming from?
Right.
You told me it had to be cleaned up and turned on the music and the whole house had to be cleaned up. So anyway, I mean, there's humor in that. But I think what that just teaches us is that we do grow and we do change as individuals. I'm not the 18-year-old teen mom anymore. I won't give my age, but, you know, I'm over the 40, you know. And so leaning into just changing as an individual, I think is important. I'm not a very good fun person. That's something I'm working on. But I think, you know, just leaning into who you are authentically, and making sure that you try to laugh at least, you know, once or twice a day. And I do that, even if that means I'm just watching reels in the car.
You have to.
For a couple minutes.
You have to laugh. You have to laugh. And that brings me to my last question, because we are running out of time, but I do have one last question for you. What can we, aside from attending the events, aside from donations, what can we as a community do to breathe life back into the Fort Wayne Urban League? What can we do? Can we hold our events there? Tell us, tell the community, actually, if you would just look into the camera and let the community know what we could do to breathe life into the Fort Wayne Urban League.
I think most importantly, just remember that the Fort Wayne Urban League is a community organization. We do have a building that's open for events. It's a great way for us to partner and learn and grow together. And most importantly, to have the conversations at home. Talk about why Mothers for the Movement, Every Child Home Alive is so important. Talk about ways that maybe you can fight poverty. We have a food bank at the Fort Wayne Urban League that is always in desperate need of food and necessities. Sometimes just taking a collection of those things and bringing them to the organization with youth or other folks that you work with help spread the word of the need. Also, just, you know, volunteering. We have volunteer opportunities with our one-on-one tutoring program, after school, homework help, so many different things. But I would just say call, get to know us, follow us on social media, be at the sneaker ball. It's your one ticket where you're really supporting the movement that's been here in the community for 104 years.
Yes, amen. And we are thankful for you here. We are also thankful for you in the community for your service and your passion. So I do thank you for that, and thank you for being here as well.
Thank you.
Thank you for watching. And as we always say, as we exit for the evening, V.
Always protect your mind. A podcast by Neutral Voices Media Group. In the Know.